Hello. Here is our group project on the history of deaf culture by Brittany Wilkins, Savannah Moore, Joanne Voltaggio, and Jonathan Polychronos. We'll begin by answering what is ASL. ASL is a complete natural language that has the same linguistic properties as spoken language. Just like any other language, it has its own grammar rules. It is expressed visually through movements of the face, torso, arms, and hands. It is primarily used by deaf and hard of hearing people in North America, more specifically Canada and the United States. It is believed that the roots of American Sign Language came from French Sign Language and local sign languages. Manually Coded English, or MCE, is not a form of ASL. MCE is a direct translation of English but uses signs instead of spoken words. It is also a category of Signing Exact English, or SEE. ASL has its own grammatical rules and syntax in which the hands, facial features, and lip/mouth movements are used. ASL also uses the surrounding areas to form the language. Some basic studies in linguistics of ASL include the use of morphemes, phonemes, and theory within hold movements, semantics, and pragmatics. Next, we are going to talk about Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard was settled in the mid to late 17th century by people who immigrated to Massachusetts from England. By the 19th century, 1 in every 25 people who lived there were deaf, but most of them all knew a form of sign. Jonathan Lambert came to the island from Kent, England, where with his own regional sign language, which eventually developed into Martha's Vineyard Sign Language. It was very common for someone to know this form of sign, even if they were not deaf, making it easier for everyone to communicate. Martha's Vineyard sign truly belonged to the town and not just the deaf community that lived there. Children would easily pick up from previous generations. Most of its history was passed down through oral retellings. There was little to no communication barriers due to the widespread of Martha's Vineyard Sign Language, making it a great place for deaf people to function easily in society. Everyone who lived there during this time were bilingual and fully integrated into their community. Jonathan Lambert. Jonathan Lambert came to Chilmark on Martha's Vineyard from Kent Island in the late 1694. Him and his family were the first deaf residents of Martha's Vineyard, inspiring the use of sign to the island. Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell is well known for his invention of the telephone, but what history likes to gloss over is his disdain for deaf culture and American Sign Language. At Martha's Vineyard, he would conduct genealogical research to isolate the cause of deafness. He was against the use of sign language, believing it only to set deaf people apart from hearing people. Because they were isolated, he believed this caused more intermarriage, which only produced more deaf people. He was an advocate for teaching oralism over sign, forcing deaf people to speak and to lip read. He was also known as an early supporter of eugenics to improve human breeding. He would cast off sign language as a foreign language and believe that within the United States, English should be the only language used to communicate in any institution, such as government and schools. He rejected the ban of eugenics called for legislation outlawing intermarriage by deaf people. He wanted for deaf people to not marry and have deaf people removed from jobs that promote the use of sign. Deaf people were to be sent to special schools taught by hearing teachers who would force the ban on sign language. Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet. In 1814, Thomas Gallaudet visited family in Hartford, Connecticut, when he noticed his brothers and sisters were not playing with a younger girl. He had learned the girl's name to be Alice Cogswell, and she was deaf. She used sign, and Gallaudet was inspired to learn sign language in order to communicate with her. Mason Cogswell, her father, financed a trip to Europe so Gallaudet could learn from the deaf school and bring sign back to the States. Gallaudet first traveled to England and found deaf schools focusing on oralism, which he later understood to have little to no help for a student. He then met Abby Sicard in England, Lauren Clerk, and Jean Massey. Lauren Clerk. Born hearing, but at the age of 1 lost his hearing and sense of smell to a fire. At the age of 12, Clerk entered the Royal Institution of the Deaf in Paris. He met Gallaudet on his trip to Europe, where eventually Clerk taught Gallaudet sign. Gallaudet asked Clerk to join him back to the States, in which Clerk accepted only on the terms that he would stay for a short period of time. On June 18, 1816, they set sail back to the States, where Clerk studied English and Gallaudet studied sign. After a year of working in the States, they founded a school for the deaf in Hartford, Connecticut. At their new school, Clerk taught signs to Gallaudet as well as deaf students. Here are students who came to study deaf education. The state would only pay for a student to attend for 5 years, so they had to teach as much as possible in that short time. After this school, both Clerk and Gallaudet assisted in founding other schools for the deaf. William C. Stoke. William Stoke was widely recognized as the creator of the linguistic study of sign language for the deaf. When he first arrived to Gallaudet University, American Sign Language believed to be a corrupt visual code for spoken English or elaborate pantomime. ASL was widely suppressed in educational programs for deaf students in favor of instruction in articulation and lip reading. He was the first to propose that ASL was fully formed language in the same sense as a spoken language. Stokes set devising a descriptive system for the language that could be used to demonstrate the point to other linguistics and the general public. Afterwards, he followed by the first dictionary of ASL in 1965, working with 2 deaf colleagues at Gallaudet. At the university, Stoke established the Linguistic Research Laboratory. In 1972, Stoke founded the journal, Sign Language Studies, as a vehicle for publication of scholarly work on ASL and other sign languages. He and his wife owned and operated The Press, which published a variety of books and articles on topics related to the sign languages of the deaf and on the origin and evolution of language in general. Stokes' published works won wide acceptance in the linguistic community and ultimately among educators of the deaf. Now, ASL is recognized as an appropriate language of instruction for deaf students, and even as an appropriate second language for hearing students in schools to study. Stoke was persistent in advocating for linguistic and education rights for deaf people, even when faced with skepticism and outright hostility. He is credited for providing critical support for movements around the world in which deaf people have won education and civil rights. Black ASL. Black American Sign Language has evolved from the historical isolation of its members of the Black deaf community and the contemporary sense of solidarity. The signs tend to be larger, usually involving two hands rather than just one. It was common belief that Black signing was not as good as ASL at one point. The use of body language derived from hip hop and other aspects of contemporary Black culture have infused the signing. Sometimes the bigger, more expressive gestures associated with Black ASL can cause confusion. For example, Franklin Jones used Black ASL sometimes made his white students think that he was angry by gesturing closer to the forehead than the chin. Some words are completely different signs in Black ASL. In the 1860s, segregation happened in the deaf community as well as the hearing community, which set Black signers apart. Like spoken Black English, the separation caused different grammatical features and vocabulary. Code switching also occurs when using Black ASL and ASL to accommodate whites. This concludes our presentation on History of Deaf Sign Language. I hope you all enjoyed.